Let's go over the items that you need. I'm using a scrap of white yarn. Here is an example of a 7 ounces Red Heart Super Saver. You can use something like this. Please don't get a black or navy blue or dark green color. It'll be hard to see your stitches. And just showing you the label here. So that's an idea of some yarn that you could purchase. Okay, so you do need some scissors. Today for this project I'm using a 6.0 millimeter crochet hook. This is also known as a size J or a size 10 if you're looking for it in the store. Crochet hooks come in different sizes. You can go down to a 5.50 or up to a 6.50 for this project. These are just some different types of crochet hooks. That one's all steel. You've got them that are padded, and so whichever one you prefer. You're also going to need a wide-eyed needle. The ones that I have here have blunt ends, but you're going to need a wide eye so that you can get your yarn through the eye of the needle, and we will use this to weave in the ends when we are finished with our project today. And these do come in plastic or steel. That's just a couple of different ones that I wanted to show you. Okay, so you're also going to need some stitch markers. Now, if you can't find any of these, or you don't want to use this particular type of stitch marker, you can also use a safety pin, a paper clip, anything that you might have around the house that you can use in place of a stitch marker. I like using stitch markers. So let's get started. Get your supplies together and we will start working on learning how to crochet. We are going to start with the slip knot. Now first I want to show you that you can either pull the yarn from the side of the ball of yarn once you take the label off, or you can pull it from the end. Now sometimes it won't be sticking out on the end. You'll have to reach inside and you'll feel a little clump of yarn in there, and you just pull that out and that should be the end. Sometimes it's hard to find that, so don't try too hard. Just work on the tail end from the side. But we're going to start with a slip knot, and we're going to do that by wrapping the yarn around our finger. You've got the tail to the right side, and then you just wrap it around your pointer finger, and we're going to do it twice. 1, 2, and then you want to take the back, hold it in place, take the back piece of yarn, flip it over that front piece of yarn, and now take the yarn in the back again and flip it over your finger. And then you've got a slip knot right there. Take your crochet hook. I come in from behind, take my finger out, and there it is. You've got your slip knot on your crochet hook, and then just tighten it up. Okay, not too tight and not too loose. Now this is how you hold your yarn. This is how I hold my yarn when I'm crocheting. So you're going to wrap the working yarn that's attached to the ball of yarn around your middle finger. One time, come up and put the top of the yarn on top of your pointer finger. I'm going to do that again. Come up around the middle finger and then on top of your pointer finger. This gives you a little bit of tension as you're working. Let's do it one more time, around the middle finger and on top of the pointer finger. Now we're going to do the chain stitch. So just hold your yarn with your thumb and your middle finger, take your hook, go behind the yarn, and just pull it through that loop on your hook. There's your first chain stitch. That little bottom one is really your slip knot right there, and there's your first chain stitch. Let's do it again. Go behind the yarn with your hook, grab it, and pull it through the loop on the hook. We're going to do it again. And let's do it again. And then you want to move your fingers up to hold the yarn as you're making your chain stitches. You can do 2 chain stitches, move your fingers up, whatever's comfortable for you, or you can do it one at a time. Grab the yarn, pull it through, move my fingers up, grab the yarn, pull it through. Just keep doing that. And, do about 12 or 14 of them, whatever. But when you hold your chain stitches vertically, you can see these are little V shapes. And that's how we count how many chains we have. We just hold it and count them. You'll see V shapes when you do other crochet stitches. The tops, like on single crochets and double crochets, you will see a V shape on the top, and that's how you will count them. So you just count each one, and you can also hold this vertically, or not vertically, horizontally, and you can count them that way as well, and just count the tops. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you can count them either way. And then you just go ahead and pull this back out. Let's start over again. Do this a few times. Okay, we're going to do another one here. Start off with your slip knot. And as you make your chain stitches, as you practice this a few times, you'll find yourself able to go a little bit faster, and your stitches should start to become a little bit more even. Is it the same length? When I say even, I'm talking about the length of the stitch according to how you're holding your tension on your fingers. Okay, I'm going to pull this one out. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about with uneven stitches. And this is going to happen to you, so you want to practice this until you can try to learn how to make the stitches even. So I'm going to do a couple of, I'm holding it kind of tightly here, doing a couple of short, tight stitches, and then I'm going to pull the yarn out, and I'm going to do some looser stitches. Do that again. So just practice this until you can kind of get your stitches at the same length. Okay, see how they're uneven? Continue on. All right, so now we're doing the single crochet stitch, and you want to do your slip knot. And then we're going to chain 14 stitches just for our practice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. So our pattern is going to end up with 14 single crochets. I'm going to have you do one more chain stitch. So this will be our turning chain. So I'm saying 14 chains plus 1. And I'm not saying 15 chains because the 15th one is our turning stitch. your pattern will probably say 15 chains. So I'm going to do the one more chain, and now we're going to start doing our single crochet. So we're going to go into the second chain from the hook. That's one. It's the first chain from the hook, and there's your hook. You don't count the one on your hook. 1, 2. So we're going to take our hook and go into that second chain from the hook, pull up our yarn, bring it back through. You have 2 loops on your hook, and you pull up the yarn and you bring it through the 2 loops on the hook. And there you've done your first single crochet. And at this point, I want you to hold on to your hook, and I want you to grab your stitch marker, and I want you to put it under the top of that single crochet by grabbing both pieces of yarn. Remember the V shape? We're just putting it under there. That's our marker. So we know that that is our first stitch, our first single crochet stitch that we made. So when we start to crochet back down the row, we'll know where to stop. Go into the next chain and pull up the yarn and bring it through. You have 2 loops on the hook. Pull up the yarn and go through 2. You've got your second single crochet. Do it again. Go into the next chain, pull up the yarn, bring it through. 2 loops on the hook, pull up the yarn, and go through the 2 loops on the hook. Again, 2 loops on the hook, go through, and you're going to do this all the way down to the end of your chains where you first started. So when you count your single crochets, you will have 14 of them. Just a few more left to do. All right, I have to pull some more yarn out, and I have 2 more stitches left on this row to do, and once I do the last 2 single crochets of this row, we're going to stop and count and make sure we have 14 single crochets. And the last stitch here. Now, I want you to count. We'll start with our stitch marker. Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. And there you have a row of single crochets. Don't worry about that little thing sticking up there. Just a little misfit. All right, go ahead and do a chain stitch at the end. This is your turning chain. You will turn your work so that you can work back the other way. And we are going to go into the second stitch, and we are going to go into the back loop. You have your V, you've got a front loop, and you've got a back loop. We're going into the back, and that is the second stitch from the hook. You're going to do your single crochet. Now you're going to get your stitch marker, and you're going to mark that this is your first single crochet going back down the other way. Put that under the 2 pieces of yarn and continue on, and just make sure that you work into the back, I say back loop or back piece of yarn. Okay, I'm into the back loop there, grab the yarn, pull it through, and grab the yarn and pull it through. Okay, and just do that all the way down to the end. And here we go again. We have 2 stitches left, and we're going to do a single crochet in the last 2 stitches. Then we will do a chain 1 and turn our work. Now you can tell that this is your last stitch because you put a stitch marker in there. So you don't even have to think about it. Otherwise, you might not be sure when you get down to that last stitch. You might accidentally try to do 1 more stitch on the turning chain. So the stitch marker helps. So there's the chain 1 that I just did. Turn the work, go into the 2nd stitch from the hook. Grab your yarn, pull it through, grab your yarn, pull through 2, grab your stitch marker so that you can mark this first stitch. I'm just using the one from the very bottom row, or you can use another one if you have several. Okay, so you want to continue all the way down again and just continue with your single crochets. When you get to the end, you do a chain 1, turn your work, and you go back the other way. You can actually continue this pattern until the project is the length of a scarf that you would like to wear. Later in this video, I'm going to show you how to weave in your ends. But you just continue on this way. And if you want to stop, you have to go somewhere, just pull the hook out and just set your work down. Go on your merry way and come back and just pick up where you left off. You'll just put the hook back into that loop and tighten it back up and continue doing your single crochets. And that will make a nice beginner scarf. But I am going to do, see, here's one here, but this one I did with double crochets and some single crochets. That was a combination. And I'm going to show you how to make a scarf with double crochets. All right, let's make the double crochet stitch. And this is the stitch we're going to use to make our scarf. Again, you want to start with your slip stitch. And then I'm going to, or your slip knot rather. There is a slip stitch, but that's a slip knot. So I want you to go ahead and chain 14. All right, we're going to start our double crochets. We've got 14 chains. We are going to do 2 more chains. So it's 14 chains plus 2 chains, a total of 16. The reason we are doing the 2 chains is because a double crochet is the same length as 2 chains. A single crochet is the length of 1 chain. Now we're going to start by going into the 3rd chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3. I'm holding my left thumb there. First, you want to wrap your yarn around the hook before you go into that chain. So I'm wrapping the yarn around the hook, and I'm going to go into that 3rd chain. I have to do that again. I'm going to use the point of my hook because I'm having trouble here getting under there. Then you want to grab the yarn again, pull it back through the loop or the chain, pick up the yarn again, and pull it through 2 loops only. 2 loops on the hook. Now you have 2 loops left. Pull up the yarn again and go through 2. So you saw that we had 3 loops on the hook when we first did that. So there is your first double crochet. Now you're going to take your stitch marker like you did before, put it under those 2 pieces of yarn under the V to mark your first double crochet. And there you go. Now continue on. You grab, now see, we're not going to go into there. That is the actual stitch we just went into. We're going to go into that next one. Grab your yarn, go into the next chain, grab your yarn and pull it back through. You have 3 loops on the hook. Grab your yarn, go through 2 loops. Grab your yarn and go through 2 loops. You now have 2 double crochets. Grab the yarn, go into the next chain. Grab your yarn, bring it back through. Grab your yarn, go through 2 loops. Grab your yarn and go through 2 loops. You now have 3 double crochets. So just continue doing your double crochets all the way down to the end. So now I'm down to the end. I have 2 stitches left to do the double crochet. And once we do that, we'll chain 2 at the end. So going in and doing my double crochet. And I've got 1 more to do. And I have to use the point of my hook to get in there this time. That happens occasionally. All right, we've got our 2 double crochets done. We've got our row completed. Pull the yarn out, take your hook out, count your stitches. Make sure you have 14. Okay, now we're going to put our hook back in and finish. Okay, we're going to chain 2 at the end. This is our turning chain. Turn our work around. And we're going to count the 3rd stitch from the hook. And we're going to go into the actual top. That's 1, 2, 3. It's actual top of the double crochet from the previous row. So wrap your yarn around. Again, go into that 3rd stitch from the hook and do a double crochet. Make sure you just go into the back loop only. And then you're going to take your stitch marker and you want to put it into the top of that double crochet. There we go. Okay, now let's go into your next stitch, do another double crochet. You're going to continue all the way down to the end. When you get to the end, you'll do 2 chains, you'll turn your work, and you'll come back. Okay, so you have 2. You don't count that turning chain right there. So far, you've done 2 double crochets. Continue on. All right, I am down to the last stitch, and I know this because I have my stitch marker. I'm going to do my last double crochet. for this row. That should make 14 double crochets. And I'm going to go ahead and pull my hook out and set it down and count just to make sure. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Okay, now I'm going to put my hook back into the loop and show you how to do the start of one more row, and then I'll show you how to finish off. So chain your 2 stitches and then count 3 stitches down, and you will be going into the back loop of that 3rd stitch and do another double crochet. Okay, so let's wrap the yarn around, go into that back loop, pull up the yarn, bring it through, pull up the yarn, go through 2, and pull up the yarn and go through 2. Hold your hook, grab your stitch marker or use the one from below, move it up, and put it under those 2 pieces of yarn, which is the top of your double crochet that you just made. Okay, and go ahead and do another double crochet. And we're going to go all the way down this row, but I'm only going to do a couple more. Here's another double crochet. And I just want you to continue on all the way down to the end. When you get down to the end, you will chain 2, turn your work, and continue just like I've been showing you. Okay, we're going to show you how to finish off and add tassels if you'd like. I have done several rows of double crochet. You are going to want to continue your rows until you reach the length of the scarf. There is no right or wrong side on this pattern. And I will show you how to make the tassels again if you want. Otherwise, you can leave it like it is. Once I do here's the single crochet, just so you can see the difference. The double crochet will work up faster. You'll finish your project faster because of the length. All right, here's my last stitch, my last double crochet. And then I'm going to do a chain 1 because I'm considering this the end of my project. That's why we're not doing 2 chains. Cut your yarn about 12 inches, I'd say, 6 to 12 inches. And since you did that chain 1, you can just pull the yarn all the way through, tighten it up, and now we are going to weave in that tail and our beginning tail. At this point, you can take your stitch markers out or you can leave them in for an unusual look. Take your wide-eyed needle and go ahead and thread your needle. Just put it through the eye and pull it. Uh-oh. It bunched up. I have to cut it again. It got stuck. I think I'm going to use a bigger wide eye. I'm going to use a different needle for this one. Here we go. Switching. It's always good to have more than one. Okay, I'm going to use this needle, and I just pull the thread through a little bit, a few inches, and I'm just going to take my project and pull the yarn through a couple of stitches. Just going down that way. and pull the yarn through. I'm going to come back up the other way, but I'm not going into the same spot where I just came out. Going under a different stitch and just going back up in the opposite direction. Now sometimes you can just do this twice and then cut your yarn. 3 times will make it more secure. My yarn came out, I've got to rethread it here. Here we go. And just go back down the opposite direction. Pull the yarn through, take your needle out, and grab your scissors and just cut it as closely as you can without ruining your project. All right, there you go. You do the other end the same way, and there you have your scarf, which I hope is longer than this. Okay, I'm going to show you how to make a tassel if you want to add a tassel to the end of your scarf. So you just cut a piece of yarn and fold it in half to the length that you think you may want. You can always trim it if it's too long. So I'm going to put my hook in between the turning chain and the double crochet right in that gap. And then I'm going to take the yarn and just loop it over and pull it through that opening. I'm still holding on to the yarn, and now you just pull up those 2 pieces of yarn with your hook and just pull it through. Okay, I'm going to do one more. You know, you will definitely need to trim them. So I'm going to take a shorter piece here. I'm just going to go between the 2 double crochets in the next gap, put the yarn on my hook, and pull it through the gap, and then take the 2 pieces of yarn and pull it through the loop on the hook. Okay, and then just tighten it, and there you have some tassels, and you just trim them. Pull them over, trim them to the length that you want. You can do it at both ends. Just trim them right there. Okay, there you have a scarf. Simple, easy project for beginners. Now I'm making a scarf with Bernat baby blanket. So with the leftover Bernat baby blanket yarn, I decided to make a scarf. This is very soft yarn. I had made some slippers with it. I had to go up to a bigger hook. This is a 9.00 millimeter, also known as a size N. I would not recommend making this scarf as your first project because it may be hard to see the stitches. But I just wanted to show you the different yarn, the different hooks you can do with the same double crochet stitch. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope you do like crocheting. And if you would, please subscribe and comment. And I thank you for watching.